Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leftist Lens. This is the podcast where we break down stuff that happened in the news that interests us, may be important to you, and we talk about it with our perspective, which is a leftist perspective. I am Matt.
And I'm James, and we try to be intelligent in our discourse, and we try to be informed. If we happen to misrepresent something and you can provide proof that we did, please state so in the comments of whatever venue you're listening to this or watching this on.
Yeah, we are fallible. We're able to admit we're wrong, too, if you show us that we are.
Truth.
All right, we're recording this on Labor Day. It is Monday, September 2nd, 2024, which is Labor Day here in the United States.
What is Labor Day anyway?
I'm glad you asked, James. Labor Day is a holiday that we celebrate, that the rest of the world pretty much celebrates on May 1st.
May Day.
May Day.
Yeah.
Where they celebrate the workers of the world.
Okay.
The people that labor, that create the wealth in every nation on earth. We here in the United States and also our friends up in Canada, for some reason, we do it on a different day. And I don't know why that is, although I've heard that it's so that we don't feel connected to the workers in other countries as much.
Well, I also suspect that the impetus behind having a holiday that celebrates the proletariat, the workers, the working class, was probably spun up more quickly in other countries that we don't want to be associated with. So we're not going to celebrate. I know May Day is celebrated in like Russia and other, Eastern Bloc countries. We don't want to join in with those horrible people. So
yeah. But don't they also celebrate May Day in like Germany and France and Great Britain?
Let me look real quick. That's easy enough
to find out. I could be wrong. This is the kind of thing we could let the workers call us out on, or the listeners call us out on, but they won't. So go ahead, look it up.
May Day is a major holiday in communist countries like China, Cuba, Vietnam, North Korea, Laos, and the former Soviet Union. Celebrations often include military parades. What does military parades have to do with the working class?
Yeah, it doesn't. That's what communist countries have turned it into.
Yeah. And then, okay, but that brings me to a point that you and I were bantering before we started recording, is that there's a constant blowback when you identify yourself as supporting communist ideology or socialist ideology that comes from the uninformed people that think that you are simping for the dictators of currently labeled communist or socialist countries. It frustrates me to no end that people don't understand that I can support a socialist political philosophy and social philosophy without saying that I want us to be like Russia or I want us to be like Cuba. And I say that while also knowing that many of the reasons that socialism has been suppressed and failed in other countries is because capitalist countries don't want it to succeed, and they do everything they can to keep it down and keep it suppressed. So it has to battle against capitalist countries, which are continuing to try to crush the idea that socialism is a working philosophy. But I am not simping for any current socialist or communist leaders. I am in support of socialist ideology in terms of political and social ideology.
I agree. And also, May 1st is Labor Day in most of Western Europe as well. France, Finland, Denmark, Czech Republic, Croatia, Bulgaria, Belgium, Austria, Australia. That's not in Europe, but I'm throwing them in there. Iceland, Ireland, Italy. So, yeah, everywhere. Labor Day is May 1st everywhere, except for Canada and the United States, pretty much. But anyway, if you are not working on Monday, thank a union. If you were working on Monday, join a union.
I wish I could join a union. I really do. I bet you in the contract paperwork that I signed to work for the government, there's something in there about not joining a union.
Yeah, probably. Otherwise, you could investigate what it takes to create one, because you can do that. You just need, I don't know how many signatures of your coworkers. But from what you've told me about some of your coworkers, that may be a tall order.
Yeah, I don't think they'd even understand what I was talking about, but it's really pointless. So we got other stuff to talk about today. Where do you want to start?
I just want to talk about something that hit me right after we finished our recording last week. You had mentioned during the recording that you thought the Polaris Dawn mission had launched because you saw an article that said so.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as we were done recording, I went to go look that up. And before I even found out about that, I saw an article saying that NASA had changed their mind and decided to let the stranded astronauts on the ISS come home on their Boeing spacecraft that's leaking helium or something. And I thought that was insane. And it was on ABCNEWS.com.
Wow.
And then it disappeared. And I could find nothing else backing up that statement. I think AI wrote those articles. I have definitely seen other articles. They're not usually long articles, like 2 or 3 paragraphs. But I think AI is writing them. I think eventually someone might look at them and be like, hey, this isn't true. But not enough. And the fact that major news outlets like ABC News are using that's kind of scary to me.
Yeah. So not only are we having to deal with entities and individuals who are human beings who are purposely putting together misinformation that they crank out on the daily, but now we're having to deal with a AI system that people are relying on that isn't being checked and verified and is just, without malice on its part, it's because I don't think it's capable of malice, is putting out bad information.
Yeah. And if you want to know how smart AI is, go to ChatGPT and ask them how many R's there are in strawberry.
Strawberry. Yeah, I saw that. That is bizarre to me.
I've seen so many videos of that. And I don't know how that happens, but
well, it's not on the outline for today, but branching off of the issue of bad information coming through news outlets and social media outlets, did you also see that Brazil has shut down Twitter?
Oh yeah, I did.
I love that for Musk. And I don't know if he thought they weren't going to do it, but he simply didn't respond to their legal requests. And immediately when the deadline passed for him to respond to that, the government shut it down.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And apparently there have been other social media sites that have been in that situation, but they've been unable to work out compromises and stay in Brazil. And Musk just decided not to do that. So, because he is whining about it.
Of course he is. Of course he is. He made memes of, I don't know who, the judge in Brazil made him to look like a vampire or something, or just some stupid shit because he's a child. He's an insolent, impotent child. And how the fuck he's running major corporations that have government contracts, fucking beyond me. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I still remember the interview he did where he said, if you don't advertise with Twitter, it'll be your fault
that Twitter fails. Yeah. Fucking
like,
lunatic.
What?
So let me ask you,
obligated to spend money with you, Elon.
It's questionable for people who are willing to do so. Let me ask you a question. Is it reasonable for social media corporations, let's leave it just narrow down to those, to have to adhere to standards to prevent misinformation from propagating on their platforms? Is that a reasonable request of that particular business?
I think I don't like the idea of them having to silence it, but I think they maybe could label it. I don't know. Honestly, how it works on Twitter now, where users can they use the add context thing. And a lot of the information I see on Twitter now does get that label, and you can read that it's misinformation, and that works for me.
And people get upset about that when they see that label on whatever they've put up there. But then when you look at what the content is they're trying to put out, it's obviously misinformation. So I haven't seen any situation where something has been labeled on Twitter as misinformation that it, in my opinion, was not misinformation. So they seem to be catching some of it and doing whatever they can to appease both sides in that regard.
Yeah.
I want to point out that, because I don't know if anybody remembers, but Twitter is supposed to end in January. Not Twitter. TikTok is supposed to end in January in the United States with the TikTok ban. I have noticed that when I log into my TikTok account, or I create a new TikTok account for some reason, that there's a banner that comes up immediately that says, please review our standards and practices as we have changed the way that we share information with other countries and other entities. I know that that is directly in response to them trying to not get banned in January with what is pending.
Yeah, I'm sure they're working on some kind of compromise.
Let me also point out that there's another very large Chinese company that I have a particular interest in called DJI, which manufactures drones, and drone piloting is one of my hobbies. DJI was on the same chopping block for the same reasons, because DJI had a cloud service that your telemetry data for when you fly drones in the United States was uploaded to a cloud server in China that may or may not have been secure. So when this was discovered and the US government decided, okay, we're going to ban DJI products in the United States, which that pissed me off instantly, DJI immediately cut that connection between that cloud server and any of the DJI drones it manufactures. So, and that effectively ended the threat of the ban of DJI products in the United States, as far as I know, because what I saw is that there was a specific congressman that held the keys to whether or not this ban was going to actually reach the floor, who said if DJI will shut off that connection to their cloud server for the telemetry from these DJI drones, I will kill the bill. And apparently he did. I don't know who that was at this point, and I can look that up and put that in the notes and paste that on the screen. But it seems to me, and I don't know why maybe TikTok has addressed that in whatever this banner is that comes up when you sign into a new account. But I haven't heard too much about it, because I have been looking very carefully at this, because one of the shops that I have that I make money from with Lumo Graphics LLC, your premier 3D printing and design company that sponsors this podcast, by the way, is I've been thinking about pulling out of the TikTok shop completely and moving all my stuff over to Etsy and Mercari and Amazon and Walmart and other stuff too, because I don't know if TikTok's going to be around, but I certainly haven't heard much about it. And I don't even know where Kamala.
I haven't either. I know there's court cases. I know TikTok was suing the government, and I don't know where that went. But the fact that you see that banner, which I was not aware of, to me that proves that they're working on some kind of compromise in the background. I assume they'll make one. There's too much money involved. I know there are Americans that would love to be able to buy it, but they're not going to sell themselves. I know that was the plan. The plan was to basically steal the tech from the Chinese company and put it in American hands. That was the plan.
Yeah, and the people who were chomping at the bit to buy it on this side, like that douchebag from Shark Tank, whatever his name is, Kevin O'Leary. He was talking about, oh yeah, I've got the money on the table now. I don't want to be connected with anything that has anything to do with you. I have greater concerns about the transfer of this technology and this platform to anyone in the United States. I trust them less than I trust the Chinese government.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's ridiculous. So yeah, back to my question though, it is, I like the idea of, and I don't know, I don't even think that this misinformation label that you see on Twitter, and yes, we're still calling it Twitter, not that other fucking name that dipshit gave it.
If you go to twitter.com, you still get there. I
think that the misinformation label came out when the bearded guy still owned the platform. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, it did. Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, and so that wasn't some invention of Elon Musk, because I think Musk probably hates that. He tends to be one of the most prolific providers of misinformation and resharing misinformation and awful things. So
he is.
Don't credit him with a goddamn thing. Anyway,
should we talk about Telegram since we're on Twitter, another social media site?
Let's talk about Telegram, and let me lead into that by saying that I knew nothing about Telegram until probably a couple of months ago. And the reason I found out about Telegram was because so many of the people who are in Department of Defense use Telegram. The people that I work with in Department of Defense all use Telegram prolifically. And so I started to look into what it was and why were they using it. And because we have, internal communication platforms that we use anyway, but these guys are using Telegram for semi-official business related to the government. And given what's come out about Telegram lately, I find that shocking.
Well, I don't find it shocking because what is unique about Telegram is its end-to-end encryption, and Telegram will not share information with any authorities anywhere. So that could be useful for official government stuff. In fact, I don't know why they wouldn't have their own end-to-end encryption program they could do for that. In fact, they probably do. But
I have seen that it's an official tool of communication for the Russian military. They use it, as an official tool. And I'm pretty sure that I saw an article where the Ukrainian military and intelligence services have been using it for the same reasons, but to intercept Russian communications. And I'm not saying that they can decrypt whatever they're intercepting, but they're using it to bait Russian soldiers into, they're sort of honeypotting them in different ways on Telegram, and it's working against itself.
Yeah. Well, the issue is because it's encrypted and because it is known that Telegram won't turn over user information to authorities, apparently people have been using that to share child pornography and other terrible things.
Yeah.
And so in France, they arrested the founder of Telegram, and they're charging him with basically aiding and abetting the distribution of child porn.
Because he refused to rein any of that in.
Right.
But didn't
he refused to turn over the identities of people that were sharing it to authorities, which I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like it's important to have a place where we can talk freely without the government hearing everything we say. And the places like that are getting fewer and fewer these days. There's cameras everywhere. They're listening to your phone conversations. They're listening to this podcast. They're listening to everything.
I know.
So I like that, but
how do you
not be allowed to share with impunity things like child porn? So I have an issue with that, and I would prefer. You can't tell me that you can't create a tool that would flag that stuff and boot those users like as soon as they share a picture or anything, right? I don't
think the goal is to boot those users. I think the goal is to find those users and hold them accountable and remove them from society.
Well, that's the goal of the authorities for sure, and I support that goal. But the goal of Telegram should have the goal of not having those users on their platform to begin with, and they don't seem to have that as a goal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, because on one hand, I see that as that's also an uncomfortable proposition to me, that the platform has a mechanism to just keep those users out of the platform, basically telling them go sell your stuff elsewhere, and being okay with that. If they're there and they're doing these things, it then needs to be, oh my God, they need to be held to account for it. So I'm not supporting the Telegram founder's plight in terms of, him being held accountable for this, because it sure looks like aiding and abetting to me.
I know, and I want those people held accountable, but like the problem is, what crimes do you draw the line at where you want your social media site to turn you over to authorities for?
Right.
Because I don't know. Yes, I want to protect children 100%. I don't think that should be shared anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but there's crimes I might want to commit in the future that I would like to be able to discuss in a social media site.
Well, but there's also things that you might want to do or say that could be held to be a criminal standard somewhere down the road. And that's the I don't know what the answer is to this. I
don't either. I don't know. I feel like, the Telegram whatever his name is, I don't know his name. He could turn over the records to the authorities and get out of this, and he's not doing that. So I don't know.
And I don't have any idea whether or not they're going to, through arresting him and trying him, they're going to compel him to turn that stuff over.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing though. Users aren't anonymous on Telegram, at least as far as I know. Maybe you can be, but I'm not anonymous. It's attached to my phone number, to my email address. You can click on me in a Telegram chat, and it'll show you my name, my phone number, my email address, a picture of me. I mean, not everybody does that, but I do get notifications in Telegram when people whose phone number I have in my contacts list join.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens periodically.
So are you suggesting that people who are active in Telegram that might come across these bad players could easily turn their information over to authorities?
Yes. I'm saying the authorities could get it publicly without needing the site to turn over anything. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you could just go in there and see who's posting it.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I don't know.
That's interesting. I
don't know, but I'm on Telegram a lot because that is where crypto projects, I dabble in crypto, and that is where crypto projects have their homes. That's where they share information. And
well, but this brings up an interesting point because what's the Tor browser? The Tor browser used to be a reliable, nefarious place that you could feel safe doing just about anything and looking for just about anything. But the Tor network has been infiltrated by the CIA, by Interpol, by every possible law enforcement agency that exists in there, and they set up honeypots and different ways of directing traffic to them to try to catch people. So that's the Tor browser is what Telegram is in that respect, in terms of being secure. But it's that Tor was infiltrated by law enforcement. Why hasn't Telegram? Or maybe it has been and we just don't know.
Yeah, it probably has been. I know there was a big news story. I used to live in Korea and I follow the news there. I subscribe to some things. It gives me news from Korea sometimes. And several months ago, actually, I'm just thinking of this now, there was a huge operation where they arrested hundreds of people in Korea that were using Telegram to distribute child porn.
Okay.
So that literally happened.
Okay.
And they must have done it without Telegram turning over the data. They knew who they were some other way.
Yeah. So that brings into question what this legal pursuit really is. And if it's the fact that this Telegram founder is aiding and abetting, then they're going to prosecute him on that. Maybe they're, the idea that he should be turning over information seems to be a semi-useless point, because it looks like there's people in there already that are nabbing these folks in the act. I don't know.
All right. Now we're going to hit a couple of our usual targets.
Mm-hmm.
Our usual discussion points.
That was a bad choice of words, maybe.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
Israel's doing its usual shit.
Yeah.
I saw the footage of the UN aid agency that the vehicle was shot up, and I don't know. I have to think that the occupants were killed in that case.
And make no mistake, Israel has been and is still targeting aid workers intentionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're almost a year into this now. We're almost a year into all the bullshit in Gaza.
Well, there were widespread protests today in Israel. Israelis protesting Netanyahu because they're mad that they haven't gotten the hostages back. And this was after Israeli occupational forces discovered 6 dead hostages yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
3 of which had been on the list. Oh, and they recently dead. Not like they had been killed months ago and they found their bodies. They were recently dead.
Mm-hmm.
3 of them had been on the list of people that were being discussed as being exchanged in the ceasefire deal that Biden was trying to put together. So basically that led the Israeli families to say, hey, if you had the ceasefire deal, we would have got those 3 people back and they wouldn't be dead, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
Because Netanyahu is the one that won't accept the ceasefire. So the largest labor union in Israel called for a general strike to shut down the economy, but then just before that was going to happen, some court order spooked them and they canceled that. But there are people protesting in the streets. They're mad at Netanyahu for not, and they want a ceasefire just like everyone else does in the world, except for the governments of the United States and the government of Israel.
Yeah, because there's no point to a ceasefire for Netanyahu. And frankly,
no. And people in Netanyahu's party who are in government, like in his parliament, several of them have been publicly stating there will be no ceasefire. We're not done, whatever. I mean, they want Palestine to be history. They want it to be gone and
not just Gaza, but the West Bank also. They're demolishing businesses and homes in the West Bank and evicting Palestinians as they've done for decades.
Yes, and that is their end goal. They want this to be a past thing. Basically, they want to accomplish with the Palestinians what the United States accomplished with the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm. Well, I saw a breakdown yesterday, and I don't even remember where I saw this, but it was an analysis of the right of return with regard to the Palestinians. The right of return, which is mandated since 1948 by the United Nations for these Palestinians to return to the land that they were evicted from since the founding of Israel. If that were to happen, Israelis would become a minority in the entire country. If the Palestinians who possess the right of return were to go back to their homes, the Israelis would be the minority. And that is something the Israeli government cannot live with. They have stated from the beginning that the Israeli state is a Jewish state and will be dominated and run and catered to the Jewish population from its founding. And in order for that to be the case, Jews need to be the majority in that territory. And so the idea that the right of return was ever going to be respected by Israel is a non-starter, because it puts Israelis in the minority, which also leads into all of the bullshit with regard to the laws in Israel for Jewish expatriates who live in other parts of the world, that they have Jewish citizenship even though they've never been there, that they have the right to claim Jewish citizenship so that they can pad their numbers and maintain a majority in the state of Israel. So it's been a disgusting debacle since the 1940s and before that, and all the awareness that exists today for it, I'm happy for it. I'm thrilled by the awareness and the understanding that people are getting with regard to the history in that part of the world, but I don't know that it's going to change until the United States breaks its relationship with Israel, and I don't see that happening.
I don't see that happening either.
Harris has said pretty clearly that she is going to maintain the relationship with Israel, and she's given, lip service to the plight of the Palestinians to no avail, to no productive end. So,
in a recent speech, she described what happened to the 1,000 or so Israelis on October 7th as a massacre, and then described what has happened to 100,000 Palestinians since as too many innocent people dying.
Yeah.
Language matters.
We had something else on the thing about Harris in this. What was it? Oh, yeah. We may as well transition this into the Harris Walz interview thing.
Okay. Did you watch it?
I watched parts of it. I did not watch the entire thing.
I watched it. First of all, I want to say Dana Bash did a really good job. She asked all the questions she wanted to ask, and when they didn't want to answer, she asked them again and again. Mm-hmm. Eventually, you have to move on because they did not answer a handful of the questions. Harris did not want to talk about being a flip-flopper.
Yep.
Since she's abandoned all of the progressive ideals she held when she was in the Senate. She's abandoned them all. So yeah, Dana Bash did a good job. Harris, Walz, it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. There were no huge gaffes that are going to cost her the election or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But she did say things that pissed me off. First of all, that she was asked about banning fracking, which she used to support, and now she doesn't. And she did a bad job answering the question. She just kept saying, well, I think we'd accomplish everything we want to accomplish related to the environment without banning it.
Hmm.
I mean, I get it. She doesn't want to say she's banning fracking because she needs to win Pennsylvania, the state I live in, and we do a whole lot of fracking here.
Yeah. But the fact that she made a blatant statement about being willing to put a Republican in her cabinet,
yeah, I mean that's not that uncommon though. Obama had a Republican in his cabinet.
Yeah, it used to be a lot more common until the Republican Party became batshit crazy.
Trump.
Yeah.
So Trump didn't put a Democrat in his cabinet, and Biden didn't put any Republicans in his cabinet.
That's because the Republican Party has gone so far, and I'm going to use a term that's going to get me in trouble, so far off the reservation that there's nothing salvageable about the Republican Party. And so the fact that given the current content of the Republican Party and their current direction, to say that you would put one of them in, it damn well better be somebody that disavows MAGA, that disavows Trump, that disavows Project 2025, that disavows every aspect of the Republican Party that is clearly toxic. And I don't know of anyone who does.
I don't either.
So who the fuck is she talking about?
I don't know, but she could probably find an independent she could put in there.
Well, yeah,
that might be good, but I don't know. But the fact that she is going so far to recruit Republican votes. Now, having a Republican in your cabinet isn't that strange, but having Republicans speak at your convention, that is strange, and they did a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the fact that the Democrats have decided that they would rather have Republican votes than progressive votes
or independents, or
is, I mean, they have people doing the polling. They must know something, but damn.
Well,
I hope that doesn't backfire is all I'm saying.
Well, obviously what that is about still being able to hold the policies that you want to hold, which, by the way, are more closely affiliated with the Republican Party than they are with independents and progressives. Because if you're willing to pull an independent or a progressive into your party, or into your cabinet, you're assumedly interested in what their policy positions are, which are going to be vastly different from what your policy positions are. The policy similarities between Democrats and Republicans are there's a razor thin difference in many of those policies, and there's a million miles of difference between the Democrat policies and independent and progressive policies. The Democratic Party has moved closer to the Republican Party in the past, I'm going to say 6 to 10 years, than they have moved to the progressives.
Well, yes, but they've been moving right since Roosevelt.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party has been moving to the right since Roosevelt. Every Democrat elected into the president's office has been more right-wing than the last ever since Roosevelt. That was the pinnacle of progressive America right there, was Roosevelt.
Yeah.
It's a shame because it's been a long time of sliding in the other direction. And by the way, when you get to the bottom of the slide to the right, you know where you are. You're in fascism, buddy. All you fucking Republicans out there that think that there's such a thing as a left-wing fascist, that's not what fascism is.
Yeah. I see that all the time.
Fucking morons.
Anyway.
So yeah, the Democrats are moving towards fascism along with the Republicans.
And they don't understand. They blatantly will say they don't understand why there are so many people that are not willing to support them. And
yeah,
they can't be that ignorant. But then again, their view, these Republican candidates and these Republican office holders are not looking at the attitude on the ground. They're getting their information from their handlers, and generally their handlers are massaging their egos and saying, oh yeah, the people are behind you, and you've got this, and push forward on your policies and so forth, because they're not being fed the reality of why we loathe them and why we are disappointed in them and why we aren't supporting them, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, just to solidify that the Democrats are consciously deciding to abandon progressive values in favor of trying to court Republican votes, I'm going to tell you about some of the ads I see. And first of all, I'm going to tell you about some Trump ads too, because they are blowing my mind also.
Okay.
So I live in Pennsylvania. It's a battleground state. So both parties spend a ton of money advertising here. So I see lots of ads. Bob Casey, he's an incumbent senator in Pennsylvania running for re-election. He's the only ad I've seen of his, which, by the way, I got invited to go meet him tomorrow. I'm going to do that.
Cool.
It's at a labor function. So I'm going to see how he likes unions. But he's a Democrat. And I've only seen one ad from him so far. And it is an ad of him standing in front of a border wall somewhere on the southern border, talking about how he wants to hire more border agents and stop the flow of fentanyl from through the border. I mean, it's a Republican ad. It is absolutely a Republican ad.
Yeah.
And it's the only ad I've seen from him. And then Kamala Harris ads are the same. She talks about border security and crime and stuff like that. Things that aren't issues for progressive and further left voters, but are issues. They're top issues, made up fucking issues that the Republican voter cares about. I just don't understand it. And then Trump, he's got an ad running, and this is a Trump ad, not a PAC, just supporting Trump, because those ads are off the wall. But this is an actual Trump ad where he is encouraging people to vote absentee, vote by mail.
Yeah.
Which blows my mind.
Yeah.
Because at the same time, the Republican Party in Pennsylvania is still trying to make those absentee ballots from 2020 invalid. They're still fighting that in court.
Right. And not only that, they want to eliminate electronic ballots. They want to go to paper balloting only and in person, and just it's ridiculous. And then they did
that because my first few elections here in Pennsylvania, I voted on a machine, and the last several it's been paper.
Yeah, that's true here too, because the when I voted in 2020, it was a paper ballot that I used that was scanned into the machine.
Yeah.
The same paper ballots that were the hanging Chad fiasco from whatever year that was with Bush Gore.
But the Trump ad literally says voting absentee is safe and secure. What?
Jesus Christ.
I mean, that's like that is the complete opposite of what he's been saying for the past 4 years.
Well, Trump is going off the deep end lately in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he also promised to support abortion rights.
Right. The interview that I saw with him from a few days ago was he was being questioned about the Florida amendment, which is coming up. Currently, there's a 6-week ban on abortion, and the interviewer asked him about this. He says, "No, I want more weeks. I want more weeks." And he apparently got so much blowback from the evangelicals on this that he then turned around and said, no, he's going to vote to support to continue the 6-week ban. And so he's just back and forth on shit. I saw him being interviewed today on stage where he's talking about elementary school children going to school and coming back with a different gender, that they've had a surgery while they were at school, and they come back home and say, "Mommy, Daddy, what happened to me?" I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It's the most batshit crazy. And the people in the audience are just, they're consuming this, and they like, oh my God, no, we got to check our children's genitals when they get home to make sure they're still there. It's fucking crazy, dude. it's getting so bad, and I know what's coming in the coming weeks and couple of months we've got until this election, that every week that we come back to do this, we're going to see more and more just unhinged craziness, not that's being called out and held to account, but is being embraced and digested and regurgitated by the masses. It's fucking awful.
I'm still waiting for the deluge of deep fakes of candidates saying off the wall stuff, because that is coming. You know that's coming.
Yeah, there's been a smattering of it here and there, but people have caught it and called it out right away. But it doesn't even matter how many people catch it and call it out for what it is, because there's X number of people that are going to still believe that, oh yeah, he said that, and that's really him, and we're going to do what he says, because that's how we got to Trump. That's how we got here, is because of the stupidity in the constituency, and it's where we're stuck. It's the same reasons why JD Vance is now a presidential candidate, when there is a written record of JD Vance calling Trump what he is, America's Hitler. He called him America's Hitler. There's a quote by him saying that. And then when they look at the masses of people that are thronging around the idea of Trump and the person of Trump, the politicians like Ted Cruz and JD Vance and these other people realize, God damn, we need those people. He's got those people. So you know what? We got to change our angle on Trump. We got to say we support him. I don't think they do. I know JD Vance is an actual piece of shit. But he did have the correct assessment of Trump not so many years ago.
Yeah. Well, so did Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham back then.
Yeah. Yep.
And Marco Rubio.
Right. But he brought so many of the scum out of their bottom dwelling existence to drag them into the political arena, and then the Republicans saw, oh, God, we need numbers. So yeah, this is our guy. And that's all this all it's ever been.
It just goes to show that there are no candidates, Democrat or Republican, that actually have any values.
True.
They'll just morph their values to whatever they think will get them the votes.
Yeah, and that's the excuse Kamala Harris gave, was that, well, my values haven't changed, but my positions have changed. Well, guess what? Your positions represent your values. So
they do.
Don't give us this double speak bullshit. You're doing what every other politician does. Anyway.
Yep. All right. Odds and ends. New segment at the end where we just talk about whatever we want. I haven't watched Long Legs yet. You talked about that last time.
Yep.
I did watch Borderlands. It was meh.
Oh my God, it was terrible.
Yeah, not a fan.
It was so bad. And I watched the reviews for it, like Red Letter Media and Half in the Bag and those guys that review movies. And so I was sort of, I've watched their reviews before and I've disagreed with them on their take on movies, but goddamn, they were right on this one. It's hot garbage.
Yeah.
And my son's a big Borderlands player, and he sent me a text message that was just this long rant about why it was so awful, and he went into detail about each character that I'm not even familiar with. But when my 20-year-old son says that something is hot garbage that he's been a fan of, I have to agree with him.
Yeah.
I got through like 20 minutes of it before I turned it off. It was so bad.
Yeah. I haven't been watching any other movies. I've been watching in the final season of Star Trek Lower Decks is coming in October, so I've been rewatching the old seasons.
Oh, okay.
I do like Star Trek. In fact, that's the communist utopia I want to live in, the Star Trek one.
Right.
Not the old Soviet Union, the Star Trek communist utopia.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry got it right a long time ago.
Yeah, he did. And I just, to be clear, the reason why they can have that communist utopia in the world of Star Trek is because there is no scarcity of resources. Now, in reality, the real world we live in, most of the scarcity is manufactured.
True.
There is enough food to feed the entire planet where nobody goes hungry.
Yep.
There is enough electricity to power every home on the planet. There is enough land and enough homes for everyone to have one.
Scarcity is a product of capitalism. It is
Yes.
it is a key pillar of capitalism and why it thrives.
Correct.
You can't have it without it. What did I do? Oh, I'm waiting for Alien Romulus to hit the streaming site so I can steal it from the internet. So I went back and I'm on Alien Resurrection now. So I did Alien Covenant.
I've never watched any of the Alien movies.
Ooh, none
Not
of
a
them?
Single one.
Oh
Not a
my
single
God.
one.
Wow.
I've seen
shocked.
clips of them. Like I recognize, some stuff in pop culture that is from the Alien movies, but I've never watched them. I don't know why.
Watch them and watch them in order. And don't bother with the Alien versus Predator stuff because that's just sort of weird and out there. But
I tried doing that with Mad Max. And I watched the first one.
The original.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I tried watching the second one, couldn't get through it. I want to watch the newer ones.
The Furiosa
but a coworker told me I had to watch all of them, and I just don't want to.
I don't think you need to in that case. I think the newer
First
stuff.
of all, it's hard because Mel Gibson turned out to be a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard.
Yeah,
I think anything with him in it anymore.
I think you can forego the old stuff completely and start with the new stuff, and it's going to hold your attention material. I thought Furiosa was really good, and I'm not like a.
Now remember, I didn't like Dune, and I did watch both of those.
Oh,
didn't like it.
I don't even know why I talked to you. It's just no point.
I know it's an unpopular opinion.
It's unthinkable. I've got a couple on deck. One is a Korean movie called Project Silence that I'm going to watch this week. Here's the synopsis. On the bridge that connects an island and its major airport with Korean Peninsula, weather conditions suddenly become so bad that one can't distinguish anything right in front of them, but there is far more concerning threat echoes, creatures born from a military experiment called Project Silence and being transferred to the utmost secrecy wreak havoc. So I'm watching that because Korean movies tend to be really good. So that was
fun fact. There's a Korean movie from 20 years ago that I shot scenes for as an extra.
What?
It's called JSA. It was a movie about the JSA, which is the border. It's the Panmunjom, the border between North Korea and South Korea. It's a Korean movie. It takes place there, and they had American soldiers as extras just doing PT in the background. Although me and a couple friends went up there and got into it. We're filmed, but we watched the movie over and over again, and there are American soldiers in it. We could not find ourselves in it.
Oh man. Damn, that was your one shot at your launching
but
your
I did
movie
film
career.
scenes for that as an extra.
That's
but
cool.
Couldn't find myself in the DVD copy I got.
I'm gonna look for that movie and I'm gonna watch it.
It's a good movie. It is a good movie. It's a love story, but it's a good movie.
Is there an English dub of it? Do you know?
I don't know if there's a dub. I don't do dubs. I do subtitles.
Yeah, that's true.
Dubs always seem weird to me.
You said JSA is the title?
Yeah.
Hang on. I'm on my site where I steal shit. JSA. Let's see. Joint Security Area from 2000?
Yes, that's the one.
Cool. Downloading currently. Very nice.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I think you'll like it.
Cool.
I did like the movie, but again, didn't find myself in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I'm at. I don't know. I'm going over to my parents' house for dinner tonight for a Labor Day dinner.
Good on you. Tell them I said hi and tell them to hang the pictures of me back up with the rest of the family where they belong.
Okay.
I'm off tomorrow because my usual days off are Sunday, Monday. So my holiday is tomorrow. So I get that extra day. Amen to that.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm probably going to go fishing if the Surf and Tide report is agreeing with that idea. So we'll see how that turns out.
Well, all right, James. Next week, we're going to probably talk about the same two topics we talk about, the election cycle and Palestine. And then there'll be other stuff that happens. And we'll tell you what we think about it.
Yeah, we're thinking about bringing in a segment about misinformation, and I think we'll start out just by adding that as a sub-segment of any of the podcasts. And anything that you guys see out there that looks like blatant misinformation that is gaining traction, send those articles our way, send that information our way, and we'll vet it and see if we can use it in the podcast.
Yep.
All right,
like,
dude.
Subscribe, leave a review, whatever. If you made it this far, don't know how many of you did. A lot of you liked episode 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, like
Not sure what happened with that.
There was like
Last
100
week's episode, not so much.
108 downloads of that one episode. Is that the one you're talking about?
280, my friend.
Holy shit.
280.
That makes me very uncomfortable.
I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about that.
We did not repeat that success with last week's episode, so who knows? You're playing Black Myth Wukong. I guess that's probably your son, right?
Oh yeah, that's my kid. You're on Steam.
Popped up on Steam.
Yeah. I can't play it when he plays it because I wind up disconnecting him because we have the same account on our Steam Deck. So I gotta wait till he's done. All right, dude. I'm gonna go get some late lunch, and I will see you next week.
All right. See you next week, everybody.
All right. Stay safe. Adios.